Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo in more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
This is Griffin Conan.
This is Xavier Edwards.
This is Liam Hicks.
This is Dave Myers, and you're watching Fish on First live.
And welcome to this edition of FOF Live, presented by About the Fans. As always, you can check out About the Fans for their brand new FOF merchandise collection and use code FOF10 at checkout for 10% off your order. As Eli is proudly showing off there, our brand new collection. Wear it, post it on Twitter. We'll retweet you everything. Buy the merchandise at FOF10 on checkout. And let me introduce everyone. We have a great panel here tonight. It's going to be a big series against the Pirates. Eury Pérez coming back for the first time in almost 20 months, I believe so, 21 months. We'll get really deep into that as the series progresses. But of course, I'm your host, Daniel. We have Kevin, Eli, Nate, Isaac, the one and only Mr. Alex Carver. And first, let's go deep dive into the prior series against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Citrus series up in Tampa, the Marlins did fall to the Rays 2-1. It was a very interesting series. Pitching-wise, it left a lot to be desired for the Marlins. But before we start, I want to go into Nate. Nate was there, was up in Tampa. Nate, talk to us a little bit what you saw there, everything going on, your whole review of that series for the Marlins.
Yeah, it was a great weekend at George M. Steinbrenner Field up in Tampa. Had a great time. Really competitive series, just like we saw back in May. Marlins played the Rays close for a change once again. All three games ended in one-run finishes. All three games were pretty entertaining throughout. I guess we'll start with Friday. I believe it was the third inning when Xavier Edwards dropped down a perfect bunt, ran to first base, and got called out for interference after not stepping outside of the baseline whatsoever. It led to Clayton McCullough's first time getting ejected as Marlins manager for good reason. And Eds also got tossed as well. After the game, he was still pretty visibly pissed about it. But Eddie got to start on Friday. He looked good. Run a little bit of trouble, but that was more unlucky, I believe. Sorry, Carver. Liam Hicks trying to continue on an inning with a little error at first base, but that's to be expected from a new first baseman like him. And then Saturday was probably one of the best games of the year for the Marlins. Started out slow. Well, first off, started out in a tragic fashion. I've never seen that. Little league, travel, high school. I've never seen a pitcher get hit right back in the head on a throwdown by his catcher. And Ryan Weathers, that's exactly what happened to him. Went down instantly. There was a huge gasp in the stadium. Was down for about a minute, came up pretty pissed, and then delivered a pretty good first inning. And then it was all really downhill from there. Velo dropped significantly in that third. Fastball was like around 90, 91 after averaging 97.5 all year. I did ask Clayton postgame if it was the head or arm that he was evaluated for, and it was the head. He confirmed it was his head that he was evaluated for. And then Isaac drops the report here about he is back in Miami, and it's not believed to be related to a concussion. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But the rest of the game, Miami really rallied in that. I believe it was the fourth or the fifth. Jesus Sanchez had a huge day. Actually had a big day at the plate again. And Otto Lopez had a good day at the plate as well. And that leads us into the ninth. Cade Gibson, who I just wrote a feature on, you guys should check that out. Great sits, pitched ninth. Game tied all the way up at 10-10. He had a great inning, and then back in the 10th. Eds came through again. Two of the best plays I've seen from him all year, especially that play to nab Cameron Meisner at home with the jump throw at second. That was incredible. And the Marlins walked out of winners. And then yesterday, not too much. Anthony Veneziano got to start. Did all right. Bullpen game. Ronnie Henriquez, which, again, I have to mention this, worked out of the fourth back-to-back days for some reason. I really don't get the philosophy on that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see for him to get more high-leverage innings. I really don't get that at all. And then Cade Gibson pitched another good inning as well. And then Valente Biozzo only gave up 2 hits, but they were both Yandy Diaz, and they were both impactful. Yandy hit a 2-run blast and then got the Rays to the eventual winning run with a double in the bottom of the 8th. So it was a good series all in all. The Marlins competed well. Just some other notes. Kyle Stowers still missing time from his hand. Clayton confirmed yesterday that he's looking better. He did take a pinch hit at bat yesterday after not playing the first 2 games of the series. So that's good there. And it was a great weekend in Tampa. And if I missed anything, please remind me, guys. But I think I got most of it.
Yeah, I just can't get over how good those plays were by X defensively, especially this one because of how much arm was required, both the accuracy and the strength off balance like that to make that play, which would have been the game time run right there. Those are things where it's I think there was some skepticism, honestly, from me about whether he'd even be a good defensive second baseman. We already know that the shortstop experiment that ship has sailed. And the question is, how solid could he actually be at second, especially in an organization that has other second base candidates in the pipeline? And this inning, and especially this play in particular, that was huge for him. So can't help but be happy for him. And the fact that he also, when he wasn't ejected, the fact that he was able to be really effective offensively as well, pretty big on him, just considering the way that his year has gone overall. It's been a disappointment. So this series from him, despite missing big chunk of one game, has to be one of his best all-around series of the season.
And I did just read about my guy, Heriberto Hernandez, who myself included were surprised that he got slid in the 2-hole in his MLB debut. But as of late, he's having a really good June. He had 3 hits yesterday. One of just 3 players since 2024 to have a 3-hit game in their debut, 3 game in their first 7 games in the lead. Joining Augustin Ramirez and who's the guy that the Rays got from the Marlins? Jack Mangum, whatever his name is.
What a group.
Yeah, pretty deep company right there. But I'm happy for Hernandez after figuring out after a little rough week there getting adjusted.
Jesus Sanchez also had himself a great weekend. 5 RBIs on Saturday. Had another one on Sunday. So trade value continues to rise for Sanchi. He's having a great season so far after a little bit of a slow start. So good to see him get it going there against Tampa. Outside of that, I mean, it was that Saturday game that I guess caught all the attention for the good and the bad. And yeah, I mean, couldn't have asked. Marlins had a shot in each game of that series. They really could have swept. Unfortunately, obviously, you can't ever predict that type of stuff that could happen in a game. And the Marlins had to go with the bullpen game. It was a weird game too. Could have started doing some junk there potentially. Like not sure when with Veneziano there to open the game, and then Beozo came in there, gave up I think it was a 2-run or 3-run shot, and that essentially was game right there. But overall, I mean, good series offensively for the Marlins, at least in game 2.
Yeah, I'm glad Kevin mentioned the Sanchez because he was coming off a really tough game on the series opener on Friday. 0 for 4 Ks. I was there firsthand as a fan, sitting in that. First of all, do not attend a day game at George Steinbrenner Field in the summer. Now we know why both stadiums in Florida have rooms and air conditioning. It is a complete and utter disaster to sit out there in the stands at a 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock game. It is unbearable. It feels like 100 degrees. But Jesus Sanchez come back with 6 RBI in those last 2 games. Very impressive. We talk about Ronnie Henriquez being used in the 3rd inning in the series finale in that glorified bullpen game that was started by Veneziano. Obviously, Beozo got a bulk of the work, and they had a shot, like Kevin mentioned. And then I guess we can touch on Ryan Weathers really quick. I know Nate mentioned that he did ask Clayton McCullough what's being evaluated. I'm sure he wasn't fibbing on that one. I'm sure he was being evaluated for concussion right after that game. But since then, as has been reported by most, that he is down back in Miami. He's not with the team. He is expected to go on the IL at some point. Assuming today's game is play, there is some weather, no pun intended, there are some weather issues going on in Pittsburgh. But I would assume he gets put on the IL between now and game time. And it seems to be shoulder soreness that he was complaining about, I guess. So not good news regarding Ryan Weathers. It's been a really tough 48, 72 hours for the Marlins left-handed starter who is poised to have a breakout season. And he's just had really tough luck on the injury front. Back in spring training, close to opening day, gets hurt, forearm strain, and then here again with some shoulder soreness. And yeah, it's tough break, tough 2025 for Marlins left-handed starter.
Yeah, just to clarify, I wasn't even accusing Clayton of that. It's just, he goes out there probably 6, 7, 8 miles an hour, below than what we're seeing from him. Obviously, something was up. I mean, unless a concussion makes you throw 8 miles an hour slower, which I'm not doubting it. You never know. But it was pretty surprising. But yeah, like you said, I do agree with Clayton that it probably was concussion protocol. He said posting that Eli tweeted out compared to the SpongeBob scene when everyone's on fire, everything's going crazy. So I believe him. Yep, there it is right there. So again, not trying to accuse Clayton of anything, but just worth pointing out.
Right. Yeah. Just to echo that, it would be a huge bummer if he misses a significant amount of time all the way back to spring training. We're so excited about the work that he's put in physically on his pitch mix, all the measurable things that took a step forward this year. And coming into the start, it translated to the regular season in a way that seemed really sustainable. He obviously would have had such a long runway this season to establish himself as a good big league starter. And last year he had that fluky finger injury at almost exactly the same time of year. I'll have to look back and try to match up the dates, but I think it's almost identical as to when he went out last year with that finger thing. He ended up missing 3 months. And this, of course, unfortunately, with a shoulder that could just that's something that could have longer term ramifications because of how important that is from his standpoint. So it's hard to parse exactly what role the hit to the head had with him being out of sorts mechanically, and that maybe leading to something with his delivery in a way that may have hurt his shoulder. It's all premature, so we'll just see how the tests come back right here. It goes without saying. It would be a bummer that just as this has been the theme of the season so much on both sides of the ball, that as soon as they get one guy back from injury, then somebody else goes down, and it leads to just being blunt here. On the roster, you have guys that aren't necessarily impactful big league players that are sticking around the roster in a way that's, of course, leading to this team losing almost as many games as they did last year, even though they seem to be more talented and ready to be competitive. It's just these injuries are just lining up in a way that's really frustrating.
And I know Nate mentioned him, but Cade Gibson, like, he's been really good, and I don't think anyone expected him to be doing what he has. And when they brought him in, maybe people thinking, it'll be a guy who's going to be a bulk pitcher here and there, and then probably get sent down. But I mean, they chose him over Veneziano at one point. So he's been good. He's been used in some high leverage situations, like we saw, this last game against Tampa. Padres one didn't go too well, and then he got thrown into the fire a couple times. But overall, I mean, a 1 ERA, just the FIP is 2.7. It's not terrible. So I mean, he's been good, and you'll take it. Nate wrote a good article on him. You should go check it out. And I mean, you look at, the situations he's in, like 78.9% left on base. The ground ball percentage is high. He hasn't allowed much contact on the air, maybe at all. So he's been great. He's been great for the Marlins so far. And we'll see what the roster moves look like, but I'm sure he'll still be around. And I mean, again, this is another one of those, like, who would have thought, moments that who would have thought Cade Gibson would be given the Marlins high leverage innings, in June, on June 9th. So good get for them so far this season, and I mean, hopefully it keeps it going.
Yeah, and I'm not even go ahead.
I've repeated this a few times, like on our site in various places. I just can't get over the fact that he wasn't even an NRI in spring training. He was that far off the radar that he was assigned to like AAA, but he wasn't even, frankly, the team wasn't even taking him all that seriously as somebody that would help them in the big leagues this year. He gets called up largely by necessity, largely by the fact that he throws with his left hand, and partly because I guess the first time was just to be a mop-up guy and eat multiple innings. But the reason why he's gotten more opportunities is because of the lack of lefty relievers. So this has been such a cool breakthrough just through the last few months for Cade.
Yeah, and just like I was saying, no exaggeration. Like that stadium was at Minor League Park, but they were loud, man. That race fan base gets after it. And who was it? Jonathan Aranda and Junior Jimenez were coming up, and the city was rocking. It was a 10-10 tie game. Rays hit 5 homers. That's the most against the Marlins all year. And Cade was in there and throws a 6-pitch ninth, and then bears down for a 10th. So I think Clayton talked about after the game that he trusts him, and I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him around that he's going to get more of these opportunities coming up because, I mean, like Kevin said, flat 1 ERA and I think 10 outings now. The guy's impressive, so I think he is the real deal. If Carver wants to talk about his guy, I think he can go ahead.
No, it's just a good ability to change eye levels. It's kind of out of nowhere. I don't even think the guy was hardly ever in AAA. I know he pitched in AA. I don't even think he pitched much in AAA, but he's good. I mean, for a team that is starved for left-handed pitching, yeah. I mean, this guy is a guy that should stick around as long as he's performing like this. Especially when Veneziano is up and down as much as he is, which we saw in this series. So, yeah, you need lefties. This team's starved for lefties. This guy, not overpowering, but the curveball, I think, is what makes him stand out. It's just a really good staple 12-6. Really solid. Changes eye levels, like I said, gets weak contact, can get some swing and misses with it as well. It's a solid relief pitcher, and he can definitely go multiple innings if he needs to. So he can be trusted for 1 to 2 innings at a time. It's cool to see him get high leverage, like you just said, Nate. That's really cool. But yeah, I think this guy definitely should stick around. He's earned it, and it's kind of out of nowhere, and I always love those stories. So he's cool, and he should definitely be here.
And like Nate said it, like probably will get more of those situations just solely because, well, deadline's coming up and they're probably going to try to trade some guys. And if they do want to keep him around, I mean, he probably is going to turn into one of the lone guys who's been on this team for a pretty long time and may get some of those higher leverage situations. So, yeah, I mean, this is a great story, and what's been a really weird season. This has been a nice story, I think. So yeah, good for Cade, and hopefully he keeps it going.
There's one player we forgot to mention, the first starter of the weekend. You have to talk about Eddie Cabrera and how he did. I feel like that's always a point of contention when we have our streams. Only 4 innings, 3 earned runs. or 1 earned run, 3 runs, 5 Ks, 2 walks. Eli, talk to us a little bit about Eddie, how you saw his start against the Rays before he got into Carver.
Yeah, it was, by his recent standards, it was a little bit underwhelming. It was just stress in every single inning, it seemed like, or at least in 3 of the 4 innings in terms of putting on base runners. Not all that his fault. And the elements were pretty challenging, I think, for every pitcher that was involved in this series. So it's kind of, I think you still have to err on the side of he's trending in the right direction. The fact that he's just being a whole lot more assertive in the zone, and that it's a trend that becomes a lot more visible as we get deeper into this is how he's really de-emphasized his 4-seamer. And when he throws fastballs, it's his sinker. And he continues to not throw very many fastballs at all. But it is a conscious change that he's made from previous years that is generally working out pretty well. We'll just have to see it keep going. But overall, this whole, now it's over a month-long stretch where he's avoided any of those real blow-up outings. If a bad outing by his standards now is 4 innings with 3 runs and 1 earned run, then you'll take that. That's preferable to what we've seen even last year from him. So overall, he continues to, I have to admit, he continues to be a little bit better, a little bit. I see more signs of progress from him than I had seen previously.
Carver, did you get to see Eddie start the other day, or maybe your thoughts on?
Yeah, other than length, like Eli mentioned, other than not being able to go more than 4 innings, especially when you now have, especially now you have a worn out bullpen, that sucks. But I mean, other than that, there's positives to be had here. I like that he's obviously challenging more in the strike zone, which is really good, and not just relying on purposely going out of the zone for swings and misses, a lot of which he didn't get previously, and guys were just waiting him out. He's gotten a lot closer to the strike zone. He's much more in the strike zone with all of his pitches. He's getting ahead more often. I just think, like Eli said, there was just so many high effort pitches, which kind of wore him out. He only threw like about 60 pitches or something like that. So that you need to mix a little bit better. But it's nice to see that he's challenging more in the strike zone, and that he's able to limit damage is what this player needs to do more than anything. And the control and command is improving still. So I think that this is another decent stepping stone for him. My only gripe about this start is that he should have mixed a lot better with the fastball, because he threw so many higher for pitches. And before we get too far, Daniel, just to mention one more thing. I don't know how long this is going to be with Weathers, or what the IL stint that Isaac's talking about is going to look like. I guess we'll find out. But if they need a lefty in the rotation, there's a guy in Double-A named Robbie Snelling that deserves a chance.
Yeah, he's been good.
Yeah, I don't want to be too big of a, I don't know how to say this, but wearing, I don't think this had much to do with it, but I heard it from a lot of players as well that played in that Friday game. They should not have been wearing black uniforms. It was, Edward Cabrera was dying out there. Some of the position players also, I heard, were a little bit unhappy that they were still wearing those things, that the game was moved to 1 o'clock because of the Metallica concert. I think that did have something to do with Mr. Edward Cabrera as well a little bit. He was just laboring after the first inning. I know he wasn't throwing strikes in that first inning, but still, man, it's these guys aren't too used to playing in that type of heat in a minor league stadium like that in a while.
Should have at least worn like the blue one. I get the Rays.
Or something light, yeah. Like even
I get the Rays were wearing the white, but like you could wear the blue.
Right, you could wear the blue, you could wear the gray, especially the blue because you wear those in spring training when it's hot as heck anyway. But I'm telling you, it felt like 100. Literally,
anything but black. It was. Isaac's not exaggerating. It was a nightmare down there.
It was heat, man. No, yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it. I didn't last the whole game sitting in the stands. It was awful.
Well, it doesn't help when you wear black either, but we'll see.
Right. Well, I'm not playing, but I'm wearing shorts. But yes, I didn't shouldn't have wear a black shirt either. And those jerseys, those major league uniforms, they are heavy.
They're heavy.
They're extremely heavy. And a lot of the players, all of them, unless you're Bryce Harper and you pull it off, they all have undershirts under them too. And so you're just dying in that heat. So I don't blame any starting pitcher for not being able to go deep in those conditions.
Thanks, Metallica.
Yeah, for real. Jeez.
Kevin, can you give us a little bit of a minor league report and just maybe 10 minutes before we get into a preview of the Pirates? Maybe just players you're looking at now, maybe leaders from the or I should say the whole organizational wise for the Marlins. Just maybe that little state of the farm, pitching wise, maybe where you expect guys to come up. It's a deadline season, so just maybe the state of the farm right now.
I mean, I think Double-A is the team to look at least on the pitching side. Yeah, I mean, Maximo Costa hasn't been great. In Triple-A, he's actually been pretty bad. There's another way to say it.
Mhm.
Outside of that, I mean, that bullpen in AAA is pretty fun to watch. I mean, they have a couple guys who obviously were in the big leagues like Cronin and Bacher, but you look at it from top to bottom, they've all been pretty good. I mean, Austin Roberts continues to have a strong season. Seth Martinez quietly has been pretty good. He got hit a little bit recently, but ERA jumped up a little bit. But outside of that, he's been good. Everyone's favorite, Wusa goes back in AAA. I don't know if he's actually thrown a pitch, but he is there. Christian Roa continues to be a solid arm for them there. I mean, outside of that, I think we're all just waiting for Adam Major to at some point make his Marlins debut. He's already debuted in the bigs. Double A, nothing crazy. Ryan Ignacio got promoted there, so I know Carver's happy about that. Kemp Alderman's still having an awesome season for them. I think he leads the Marlins minor leagues in hits, so he's been good there. He's close to 20 stolen bases, I want to say too. So he said he wanted to go 2020. He may not get hopefully he gets to 20 homers, but he is very close to the 20 stolen bases. So he's gonna get that. Outside of that, pitching, I mean, Carver noted it. Robbie Snelling, I don't know what else he's doing, and I don't know what he's doing in Double A at this point. May as well give him the shot, go to Triple A. It's not like those guys are in much need of much more development, anyways. Dax Fulton's been a lot better recently, I want to say. So, yeah, I mean, top to bottom, everything's looking a lot better. The lower levels are struggling a little more when it actually comes to winning baseball games, but those guys are developing. PJ Orlando now in the FCL getting the rehab games. Hopefully doesn't get injured again. But outside of that, I know Kevin DeFrank threw again today. So overall, things are looking good in the minor leagues.
Some things that Kevin didn't mention that people may be interested in, just to throw it in. Janiro Miller, who was a high-priced international signing, signed as a two-way player, is now pitching instead of playing the outfield. So he actually threw the other day as a pitcher. He got a late start, and I guess he's a pitcher now. So along with Jose Gerardo, who switched from the outfield to pitching, Janiro Miller has now switched from the outfield to pitching. I don't know if this is going to be a full-time thing for him, but his first outing was not good in the DSL, but I guess that's why there's time to learn, especially all the time in the world for that kid. The other one I'll mention is Luis Cova, who is off to an insane start, hitting 400 plus in the DSL. That's a player that I thought could have started in the FCL. They didn't do it. They put him back in the DSL, but he's been really, really good so far. I mean, that team, I think it was DSL Marlins. They have two teams out there now, for those that don't know. DSL Marlins, I think it was, that scored 28 runs in their first game or something like that, with like 5 or 6 home runs. Pretty crazy. They continue to steal every base in the world at these lower levels, FCL and DSL all included. They just run all the time, which is cool to see. So yeah, these lower levels are fun. For DSL, we don't really get that much. We can sometimes get some stuff from the guys that are down there, but largely it's following box scores, and the stats look really good. What we've seen on video looks solid from a lot of these players, especially the ones that I called out. Kova's the main one. There's a couple other guys as well, but we'll have that in the minor league recap coming out probably tomorrow. I'll go a little bit deeper into some of those lower down prospects at the short season level.
Yeah, I guess the one other name worth, noting. I mean, it's right there. Shedrick Vargas has been pretty good, and I think I saw it in the comments too. Like Jared Serna has just been not good at all. Like this, he's been really bad. Like it's disappointing to see because of how good he was when he got here to the Marlins, got to AAA, looks okay in that small sample size. But yeah, that's been disappointing to see, especially because he's a guy who could probably play. Could have they added to the 40 man and thought he could be something this season. Hopefully, if he really got it going. Same thing with Acosta. At this point, they could have called up Acosta. I'd been hitting well in AAA and had him be the shortstop of this team. But yeah, it's been unfortunate there. And as Eli shows, our top 30. Yeah, it hasn't been great recently with offensive players, and Eli noted it too, I think on Twitter, like how bad the Pensacola infield has been. So yeah, they added this guy recently, Grant Richardson. I guess I'll quickly note that it was in the Yankee system with Rachel Balkovic, and comes over here. He's been raking recently in this last couple first games with the Wahoos, 2 home runs in that span, 5 RBIs. He's like 5 for 10. So nothing crazy. I'm not going to take too much into that, obviously, but if he's a guy who's going to get some run and begins to perform, I guess it's a name to look at, and another one of those minor league signings that maybe the Marlins found something in.
Yeah. The last thing I'll add, Davison De Los Santos, he's been out close to a month with a groin injury. He's on the verge of beginning a rehab assignment, which means he should be back in Jacksonville next week. So that'll be an interesting puzzle to put together because Matt Mervis is there all of a sudden after getting outrighted to the minors. Troy Johnson is there. He's always there, always in Jacksonville. And now De Los Santos, to have all three of them together, all three guys that are primary first basemen at the same time, it'll be interesting to see that work out. Of course, there were high hopes for De Los Santos entering this year, and it had been kind of underwhelming for the most part prior to the injury. So I'm just intrigued to see what that looks like on the other side of this.
What a month of May for Troy. Like, I mean, I always got to throw it to my guy. What a month for that player. Like, we don't have to go into it. We all know what everybody thinks. Great month. Another great month. Me and Kevin, I think, are going to have him on again for a third time on Swimming Upstream. So that should be coming up probably pretty soon. I guess I'll call out one more thing before we move on to this series, Daniel. Andres Valor. Andres Valor has gotten it going here after a really slow start. I think he has hits in like 10 of his last 11 games. So it's really cool to see that guy get it going. A little bit of an adjustment, I think, in the setup from what I can see, and a bit better in terms of barrel contact. So it's not that he wasn't making contact, it's that he just wasn't making good enough contact. So I think he's made the adjustment that has really helped him out. And it looks good lately for Andres Valor. Really like that player.
Are there any players that have been maybe a big disappointment to you guys before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, Acosta, Cerna, those guys have been pretty disappointing for the most part this season. I mean, there's not really another name at the moment that really jumps out to me as disappointing. Yeah, really can't think of another one. Yeah, no, those are the only two. We could talk about Eury now.
We have to circle back just to acknowledge the Ryan Weathers update. Yeah, he is not being traded. That's for one, because he'll out for at least the next couple months, and probably longer than that. For again, it just mirrors last year, except this time it's the shoulder instead of his finger, where he's going to miss a huge chunk of this season. And we'll have to find out more in the coming days about what the exact diagnosis is, but shoulder related, opening up a void in this Marlins rotation that, as I just noted, Eury can step into that, but the whole point was ideally to have these guys together. So again,
that happened pretty quick, man. Like, I mean, geez, like that, when it happens that quick, it's probably not good. So
yeah, right.
Maybe,
yeah. So you're right, because just to a glimpse of what the 40-man, to be blunt, there were other guys that they could have designated for assignment to open up this roster spot to Eury. This is the corresponding move for Eury instead of that. And the fact that they were willing to do this, it's very similar to what they did with Griffin Conine when he suffered that injury to his shoulder that ended up being season ending. They knew at the time that it was probably going to be season ending. And for that to happen right here, that indicates where the team is leaning. So yeah, we just got to stay tuned to see what the recovery is and whether it requires surgery or whether they're just going to try to rest and recover. But either way, a huge bummer for a guy that even best case scenario is going to barely be on the mound this season.
It's tough so much. I mean, we were expecting, Kev, we were expecting like a lot of things from this player this year, and he was off to such a good start. Now he's going to miss at least 2 months, which, man, I mean, at this point in his career, it's just such an unfortunate timing for something like this to happen, and for it to happen apparently like just out of the blue. Just like maybe he was dealing with it before this. I don't know. I would hope not, but for this to happen at this point in this guy's career is very, very unfortunate. The timing of this just sucks. I hope we see him back this season, but for this to happen as fast as it did, this could be a lengthy absence, which I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's already going to be a lengthy absence. It probably could mean he's done for the year. And well, with this, yeah, I mean, it's tough. And as Eli noted, it's a simple swap. You put Eury in there for Weathers. It's an easier roster move than having to make 2 of them, because if it would have been 15-day, it would have been a completely different roster move there. But yeah, I mean, I guess this lines up like Jansen Junk now to start in there potentially.
Yeah, and don't laugh that off. He's been really good.
He's tough.
Yeah,
He pitched well this weekend.
They have quite a few candidates, in my opinion. They just called up Connor Gillespie, who we saw, believe it or not, in their opening day rotation, even though it feels like an eternity ago.
Oh my God, he is there,
yeah, in my opinion, I'm most intrigued by what Junk can do. Junk looks like a really nice find by this team.
Hey, I mean, they could also bring up Mazer, who's been already in AAA for a while. May as well see what you got there. And I mean, if you're going to let the young guys play, that's a guy who could go into the rotation. And yeah.
if you want a lefty, like I said, Snelling is the guy. But Mazur too has been good in AAA. So
yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean, at this point, I believe the clock already started with him anyways, so you might as well see what you got.
Yeah, difference there is Mazur on the 40 and Snelling not. So I mean,
Mhm.
ease of access with Mazur too, but that would give you an all righty rotation, which I guess they would have to deal with just a couple lefties in the pen, but we'll see.
All right, well, let's get into this Pittsburgh Pirates series against the Marlins. Big series as Eury Pérez will make his season debut in over close to, I believe, 20 months since his last start with the Marlins. We'll deep dive into that, get into the lineups. This is a series the Marlins will not have to see Paul Skeens. It feels like this has been about time the Marlins are going to face Paul Skeens in the Pittsburgh Pirates series. But Eli, give us a rundown. Eury Pérez coming back. What do you expect? Maybe what do you expect to see from him, the organization, and just a win for having him on the mound there tonight?
I'd assume it's by the time we were doing the show that the lineups would be out, because I wanted to compare the lineup for the last time he pitched before TJ with the lineup tonight. We're assuming that Jesus Sanchez is going to be in there. If he is, he's the only player. He's the only player that would be in both the before and after lineup. Everybody else is gone. Yeah.
Ramirez catching Eury.
Okay. So let me just pull up the lineup from September of 2023, which was the last time that Eury pitched in here. And at that time, that injury that ended his 2023 season prematurely, that was not related to his elbow. If people remember the process here, I think it was a back issue at the end of September, that playoff season that kept him out of the postseason run. Then it was entering early in spring training in 2024. He had the blister issue. A few starts later, they thought they had figured that out. Oh, fingernail. I should say that it was the fingernail issue. He had like a broken fingernail in spring training of last year. Tried to pitch through it. They felt it was fine, but then the elbow was a concern. They thought they could rest and rehab it without surgery. Then shortly after the regular season started, he undergoes TJ. So this is almost exactly 14 months after TJ, which is kind of a realistic best case scenario for any young pitcher to get back in just over one full year. Again, this is the lineup from the last time that he pitched in a major league regular season game.
We have
Jorge
today.
Soler, leadoff hitter.
Oh, man.
And Brian De La Cruz right in the middle of that. Look at how everybody has a different hat on now than instead of from the Marlins days, because they're all new teams. It goes to show you how much has changed in
the Cruz with the Yankees. I did not even know that. Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay, so I see the lineup now. Yeah. So Jesus Sanchez in there just as he was before. Everybody else is much different than they previously were for this team. Let's just, as the Marlins make the roster moves official, let's just make sure there's nothing else that surprises us here. Yeah, Connor. So they sent down. Interesting. So according to this, are they going to be shorthanded tonight? Because they sent down Gillespie and they put Weathers on the IL with a lat strain, to be specific. If you want to be more, we were hearing shoulder, so the lat is the back of the shoulder. We'll see how that goes. My very early impression of that is it's not the worst case scenario. If it is the lat itself instead of something structural with the shoulder, then maybe not like a nightmare, but still clearly a long absence for him. Either way. Yeah.
Not Gillespie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it must mean someone's coming up tomorrow. So
sure.
Yeah. For one day, be shorthanded by one pitcher. Anyway, final thoughts on Eury. Let me just put up, this is the rehab starts that he was making, an 8-start rehab assignment. That went pretty good. There was that one outing in Jupiter where he didn't get out of the first inning due to control issues. And then in his, occasional control issues, as you see here with the walks, including in his final outing with 3 of those. But overall, only allowed, it was an ERA below 2 in these 8 outings combined. The velo is back to almost exactly where it was before the injury, where he's comfortably sitting 96, 97, getting up to 99, even 100 when he absolutely needs it. So he looks good. I just want to caution people, we were saying more or less the same thing about Sandy in spring training. When Sandy was coming back from Tommy John, we were optimistic about him being close to what he had used to be, and we know how that played out. This is just very volatile. You could look across the league, a more trending example across baseball, Spencer Strider coming back from his elbow issues people had very high expectations for him, and he has been mid at best, and really even worse than that this season so far. And that's a guy that people thought had Cy Young potential. You just really don't know until you see it play out at the major league level. But I'm just so excited to see him do that, because we know that he has such a high ceiling. Lastly, to point out, he's the youngest active pitcher in baseball, despite all the time he missed, and this being more than 2 years after his debut. So just to put it in context of why he was so hyped in the first place is because of how advanced he was, and before the injury, at least, how good his control was for a guy that is so exceptionally tall at that age. It was just this combination that got people understandably very excited, and people should still be very, very excited because of how many years he potentially still has ahead of him.
I want to go to Carver. Talk about Eury. You know, you've watched Eury go from when he was just signing international free agent, go off the levels to now to the point. You know, he's making almost his re-debut with the Marlins post Tommy John surgery. Just what are your expectations from him, and do you hope? What do you want to hope to see from him coming out of this post TJ? What would be a success in your mind for Eury?
The same guy he was before. That's really what you want to see. You want to see this player be the pitcher that he was all the way through his minor league career, the way that he improved so quickly to get to the majors when he did as the youngest player ever in franchise history, as Eli just said. Like, you want to see the same pitcher. Like, I not that he was perfect as he was and he still had room to grow, yeah, but he was just so far ahead. So if he hasn't lost a step and if he can continue on the trajectory that he was on, that is worlds away enough for this guy to be the ace of this rotation over Sandy Alcantara, especially with his tough start. Maybe he gets traded. Eury's the ace of the staff. Eury probably is the ace of the staff anyways, even if Sandy's here, I think, if he is the same player. So, yeah, I want to see the same pitcher we saw before this injury, the same guy that we saw go out and, you know, learn from all the people that were around him, learn well from Marlins pitching coaches and pitching staff. I'm going to be intrigued to see how he continues to build with this new staff. That's going to be intriguing to me because what's in place now is a bit different than, you know, Mel Stottlemyre and a couple of other guys that were here when he was first building and growing. So how he interacts with this new staff, how he is coached by this new staff and the analytical, you know, reach that they now have. I'm intrigued to see how he will continue to be groomed and brought back as a starter, because that's a bit different than what he is used to or was used to before this injury. So I'm intrigued to see all of that. I think, like I said, if he comes back and is even close to the same pitcher that we saw last when he was last on the mound for the Marlins, that's a huge win, and that's where you want him to be.
Yeah, and it looks like he may go 4 or 5, depending. It's an 80-85 pitch count, so we'll see how long he really is out there. But as you guys noted, I mean, he looked really good for the most part throughout his rehab assignments. I think the velo's there, the stuff is there. I think the control is a little bit off. Like, he's not really commanding the pitches, not landing in spots, I think is the best way to say it. Eli noted that one of those first outings couldn't even get out of the first. His most recent rehab outings, maybe the last 2 or 2 out of 3, he walked 3 guys. So yeah, I mean, that's the only concern. But outside of that, I mean, they're gonna, just like they babied him the first time, they're gonna do it again. But I guess this time with even more reason with the injury. But I think the pitch count will go up progressively, probably 90 the next time out, which would be Sunday against the Nationals. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're just excited regardless tonight to see what he's got.
I want to go to Nate. How do you expect this maybe to be a little different than Sandy coming back from TJ? I know maybe they had maybe some type of different injuries, but how do you expect maybe the Marlins to handle Eury coming back compared to how they've handled Sandy?
I think they'll definitely be more careful. Like Kevin said, they babied him really hard back in 23 in the middle of a playoff run. So I think they're going to be, you know, they try to prevent Tommy John, and it still happens. So I think they're not going to be, you know, as crazy as they were the first time, but they started to be super cautious. This guy's the future face of the franchise, maybe even the current, like Carter said, with how Sandy's been struggling. So he's going to be around here for a long time, hopefully, and they're going to treat him with that care. So in terms of him coming back, we have no idea what to expect. Like Eli said, we all thought Sandy was going to dominate after a great spring training, and he has struggled so far. So I think it might take him some time, but luckily for him, he's running against a Pirates lineup that, even though they just swept the Phillies, it's still not one of the best in baseball. So I think this gives him a great opportunity to kind of just settle in at the big league level.
And that's a perfect place to go now, to go look at the lineups and see what the Marlins are throwing out there for Eury Day, and maybe who is going to face on his return going up against the Pirates. It'd be very interesting to see there. Pirates, again, they swept the Phillies, but like Eli wrote in a tweet, it's a battle for 13th place in the National League. So we'll see everything that goes there. Let's first start off with the Marlins going with Xavier Edwards. Augustine Ramirez will be catching Eury. I want to hear Kevin's thoughts on that. Augustine catching Eury.
Well, first of all, what a lineup. Like, this is about to be one of the better lineups they've done all season. And with all due respect to Heriberto Hernandez, outside of him, like, this is a great lineup. Like, shout out to whoever made this one. But as you noted, Augustine will be catching Eury. I think they built a good relationship throughout spring training enough to get to the point where that's what they're going to do. So yeah, I mean, nothing crazy. They want to catch these guys. They believe him and Eury are two huge building blocks for this team. I think Craig noted that in our podcast. So only right to have those two guys working alongside each other, assuming this is going to be for the long haul. I think Stowers started the final game in Tampa, so good to see him, back in the lineup, good to go regardless. Yeah, no, this is a good lineup. Unfortunately, defense may not be the greatest with Hicks at first and Augustine behind the dish, but outside of that, I think this is a pretty great lineup.
Yeah, I just want to point out, like, the number of games we've already seen Heriberto in the top half of the lineup as high as number 2. It was hard to defend that. To his credit, he's been getting a lot of singles, not overall mashing, but he's getting enough base hits to really back it up so far that he's in the big leagues. If he's going to be in the lineup, this is a lot more preferable that it's towards the bottom for now. And as he gets a longer track record, and if he continues to prove people wrong, all the better. But for the moment, this looks good. It continues a streak of different batting orders used every single game this year by this team. Looks good on paper, though. We'll see how it translates, because as we've seen the last week and a half, there's really been just one game in there where the offense erupted. Everything else has been a bit of a slog, or it's been inconsistent throughout the game. So can't really get your hopes up all that high until you actually see them put it all together while playing in a ballpark that is a little pitcher friendly and not a launching pad the way that Steinbrenner Field was under those conditions. Looks good. So let's just see how it plays out.
Yeah, and just revisiting something from earlier, it is good to see Stowers bat starting in the order for, I believe, the first time in about a week or so. So it appears that hand is not that much of a concern anymore. And like Kevin said, this lineup is sexy. There's no other way to put it, really. And even Heriberto, like I said, man, that guy's been hot recently. So if you can turn it over back to the top, I mean, they can score some runs today.
Yeah, some interesting names there. Let's go ahead and look at this Pirates lineup. Again, very top heavy with O'Neal Cruz there, Andrew McCutchen, Brian Reynolds. I guess maybe former future Marlin in that case, talking about him, and a lot of young guys as well, maybe rounding it up there. Eli, give us a little tidbit of this Pirates lineup, really starting off hot with O'Neal Cruz.
Right. And he's interesting. He's a pretty exceptional guy. And the way that he hits the ball, has the hardest hit ball in baseball this season by anybody to this point. As you see overall, I think even that average exit velo leads the entire major leagues this season. As a base runner, he's just been really aggressive and extremely efficient. Everybody else in this group has been inconsistent. McCutchen has been, I'd say, better than most people probably thought he would be at age 38 at this point. And Brian Reynolds, after getting off to a very slow start, he is getting pretty close to his career norm. So, and it's a deeper lineup. They just recently got both Horowitz and Gonzalez back from injuries. That helps. It is a deeper lineup than it was for a lot of the year. Brian Hayes continues to just be a head scratcher for a guy that had, when he came up, looked like he had so much overall upside. And now all of a sudden he is somebody that in this team is hitting 7th on a pretty consistent basis. He just does not slug at all the way that it looks like he was early on in his career. He's still awesome defensively. But as a group, though, it's pretty bad. I've tried to make it seem in a positive way, but there's a reason why this team, record-wise, is almost in the same place that the Marlins are, because overall for the season, their offense has been really bad. They're trending in a better direction. They just swept the Phillies, but they did it mostly on the back of their pitching staff. The fact that the Phillies themselves are slumping offensively. So I wouldn't read too much into the fact that they're coming off a good weekend. I think part of that was catching the Phillies at the right time. Overall, it's just a really even matchup, I would say, between these two teams right now. And even though O'Neal Cruz is the one that gets attention, at least they're kind of like the Marlins, where we look at that Marlins lineup and we actually see some decent depth there. The Pirates have reached a point in their season, especially when they get IKF at shortstop. This is a rare day off for him, but I assume he'll be available off the bench. it's one that's actually got some okay depth to it relative to what you might expect just looking at the overall numbers.
Yeah,
Very bad news, but sorry, Christina just tweeted that they are burning the tarp onto the field right now, so that is not a good sign. It is raining hard in Pittsburgh, it looks like.
Well, yeah, no. Well, first, like this Pirates lineup has been terrible all season. They're literally 29th in runs scored. They have only scored 208 runs. The Rockies are right behind them, so not good. But as Eli noted, O'Neill Cruz has been a fun watch. McCutcheon's still doing what he's doing at his age is good to see. And then former future Marlin Brian Reynolds has been solid. So outside of that, yeah, it's been a pretty disappointing Pirates lineup. Their pitching, on the other hand, has been really good for the most part. At least Paul Skeens, and we can talk and I know he's not pitching, but like the Paul Skeens thing, you got to feel bad for the guy. He's going out there throwing complete games and still losing. Like that's like reminds you of Sandy in 2022 when he won the Cy Young. And then I know a couple of years back, Jacob deGrom with the Mets. So tough situation there for him. They still have Bubba Chandler in AAA. Not sure why they haven't called him up at this point. So,
you know what else they have in AAA? Ronnie Simon.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Well, let me check on him real quick to see how he's doing since coming over. It's still been a relatively small sample.
I'm glad Kevin pointed out the pitching because I don't know why my camera broke, by the way, but I'm glad Kevin pointed out the pitching because it's not just Skeens. They have their rotation's been what's carried this team. It's not the offense, it's their pitching. Bailey Falter's been good. Andrew Heaney, former Marlins, been good. Other than their fifth spot, this is a good rotation. Obviously with Skeens at the top. So their pitching is what Miami has to get past, not really the offense. And then now, with another glaring hole, even though the weather spot wasn't going to be due up, but with another hole to fill in your rotation, along with a bullpen that got pretty worn out last series. That's kind of going to be what to look for is can the Marlins score enough runs, and then can Miami pitching, namely the bullpen, kind of keep up with what the Pirates can do pitching-wise?
Yeah, and I admittedly haven't followed the Pirates much, after opening day, but I do remember that O'Neill Cruz pretty much handed the Marlins opening day with his atrocious defense in center field. But Eli, can you remind me of how the O'Neill Cruz in center field experiment's going, and now 2 months into the year?
I feel like it couldn't be going any worse than it started early on. It is trending in a direction where I think they're going to stick with it, at least for this season, and that it's somewhat of an improvement over shortstop because it's still awkward out there, but we remember pretty clearly from that first series that it was more so his decision-making out there that was costing the team runs, throwing to the wrong base, overthrowing certain guys, and miscommunication with his teammates. My understanding is that stuff has gotten better to this point, and you look at the overall number.
Average.
Yeah, you look at by that, and even by defensive runs saved, that is the most critical one of him. It has him at a -5, which in this small of a season is pretty bad. But a lot, we saw several of those negative runs in that first series alone. So it is trending in a better direction for them overall. And I think overall that's the best case scenario for his season at this point. Offensively, even better than last year. And defensively, not saying he's an asset out there, but he's hurting the team less than he did when he was a shortstop.
Yeah, and a lot has changed from that first series against the Pirates. I don't want to go. I'll go back to you again, Eli. Probably the biggest name also that really had a horrible series was David Bednar. I remember he was sent down right after that series. He was gone for close to a month, and now looking back at his last couple of starts, or at least his last couple appearances, and coming back since that Marlins series, he's been, I believe, one of the better closers in baseball. What you've seen from him and maybe his numbers, that's another player that the Marlins now have to see maybe to get the better of him again, or maybe Bednar has changed some things to the point now maybe he knows how to handle these Marlins.
Right. He's turning it around maybe just in time to finally get traded by the Pirates. I did see a report coming out maybe last month about how previously the front office was prepared to trade him, and that was blocked by ownership at some point back when he was consistently good a couple of years ago. And now, once again, the team hasn't improved whatsoever, and he is getting back on track in a way that will make him potentially one of the more exciting relief arms available on the market, just given his track record before the previous couple of seasons. Now that inconsistency is going to mean that he's less valuable on the market than he used to be, but still somebody that has a lot of closing experience that has at times 3 different plus pitches, but especially his breaking balls, both his curveball that he has and that splitter that he has, both of those pitches, he can get swings and misses. It's yeah. I mentioned their previous series. If you want to say one thing that looks a little legit, is that their bullpen has straightened out a lot after being a huge weakness early on in the season. Their bullpen looks solid. It probably has the advantage over the Marlins bullpen at this particular time, which means it comes down to which of these offenses actually put stuff together. I would lean towards the Marlins doing it. It's just that there's just haven't been a ton of evidence of them doing that consistently over these last few series.
Don't forget that JJ Bleday walk, Kevin.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Trust me.
Well, let's go ahead now. I think the perfect time to get into predictions. We'll get into that little deep dive into our predictions, see what's going on there. Eli, let's get that. Let's get the video going.
Mm-hmm.
This is prediction time.
I think we're going to win a lot of games, a lot more games than you think we're going to win this year.
Bruce could not have foreseen the injury issues, the off and on. To his credit, I think he had the right idea. I'll look at our leaderboard to this point, coming off a series where I made perfect picks to inch myself up into a tie for 16th place or so. But Lucas has been on top for over a month now with rings right behind him. The underlying names are our staffers, but everybody else, super subs and live stream guests. So because it looks like this game is going to begin in a slight delay, you still have time to submit your picks in our Discord channel or by becoming a super sub and just click the banner at the top of the page to comment with your predictions. How many games the Marlins will win, who will be the series MVP as determined by win probability added. Could be a hitter, could be a pitcher on either team to this point. One of the easiest opponents on the Marlins schedule. We said that when they played the White Sox, that didn't go well. We said that when they played the Rockies, that went even worse. Aside from those 2 teams, you'd have to say that this is the 3rd easiest opponent on their schedule. But we'll have to see what people think about that. So let me just get the background set up and then the music queued up. And then take it away, Daniel.
All right, starting us off for this series prediction against the Pittsburgh Pirates at PNC Park. As always, leading us off, Mr. Kevin Bravati.
I'm going to go with the Marlins taking 2 out of 3, and Dane Myers will be my series MVP.
Ooh, let's go to Alex Carver.
Yeah, I like this lineup, as Kevin noted. I think that this offense will do enough and get enough from pitching. I think the difference will be pitching and not offense. I don't think either one of these offenses is particularly good right now, but the Marlins definitely, I think, better. And they'll get enough out of their pitching, even though they have a tired bullpen. Eury's back. Everybody's excited. They're going to be fired up. Marlins, 2 out of 3. Augustin Ramirez, MVP.
Mr. Isaac.
You're muted. Sorry, I've been ice cold with predictions. I think that the Marlins win 2 out of 3. Therefore, Pirates win 2 out of 3. I'm going to go with Mr. O'Neal Cruz.
All right. Nate.
The Marlins have actually played in 5 consecutive one-run games. They've just missed a couple wins, and I think their luck will turn around this series in Pittsburgh. They'll take 2 out of 3, and I haven't picked them in a while, guys. Give me a Xavier Edwards. Had a great series with the bat and the glove in Tampa. He's going to keep it going.
Jeez.
Ooh. All right, I like that pick. This pick is solely going based on me trying to get on top of that leaderboard. I am going Marlins sweep, and my MVP is going to be Kyle Stowers. 2 home runs this series. Eli.
Pretty similar to me. I think the Marlins are going to win this series 2 out of 3. I also have Kyle Stowers as MVP. Barely played the last week due to managing that hand issue, so at least he's well rested. As long as he feels that the worst of that is behind him, he's kind of due to break out of this slump anyway, and I think they'll do it in Pittsburgh. So they carry the Marlins to a rare series win in the middle of this road trip.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what happens there. Again, it'll be Eury Pérez. Paul Skeen's not pitching, so again, very heavy Marlins favorites for this series. For myself, Daniel, Kevin, Eli, Nate, Isaac, Mr. Alex Carver. This is FOF Live, presented by About the Fans. Always FOF 10 at checkout. Go Fish.
Go super subscribe to Fish on First right now.
Jeez.
Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection.
Rep the FOF logo and more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.